Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. I am Charlton, and welcome back to my channel. On today's itinerary, we have Apple Cider Vinegar, a new true-ish limited series from Netflix based on the life and lies of Belle Gibson. Belle Gibson is a grifter from the early 2010s who lied about a malignant brain cancer diagnosis and peddled alternative treatments and a reliance on nutrition to cure her brain cancer. The show's title is a nod to wellness gurus who often tout apple cider vinegar as a cure-all. It is important to note that in the series, the show introduces a character named Mila who is an amalgamation of several wellness influences but is based mainly on Jess Ainskell. Jess was a teen magazine editor who went viral for recording how she stayed in remission from cancer without going through the traditional chemotherapy and radiotherapy treatments. When Jess's mother was diagnosed with cancer, she followed her daughter's guidance, but she died in 2013, and then in 2015, Jess also died from cancer. The family of Jess have slammed the series for being offensive and untrue. This 6-episode series is led by Caitlin Dever, who starred in one of my favorite sitcoms called Last Man Standing. So let's get into the episode by episode breakdown, my thoughts, and where this series falls on my 5-star rating. Let's go. We find the main character Belle Gibson, and in the opening scene she's listing off a laundry list of symptoms and having an MRI done. We then find out she has cancer. The editing of the montage in the beginning of this episode is so seamless. It really gives us a good history of the story, and then we see Belle meet with a crisis management firm. Then we meet Lucy. She's in bed with her husband. He has his hand under her shirt and touching her breast, and then he discovers a lump. She laughs it off and says she has always had those lumps and she has even given them names. But concern washes over her face. We are then in the doctor's office and it is cancer. Her husband cries more than she does. We then see this stunning surgery sequence where we see her have a mastectomy, and then she has more chemo, and then the loss of hair. We now know that Lucy's a character that was invented to show how people really took the advice and guidance that wellness gurus like Belle disseminated. Her character is a representation of the real-life cancer patients who took Belle's word as bond, who were trying to rid themselves of this disease. We then see Belle have a launch for her cookbook. At the launch, we see Chanel pivot suddenly. She exits the launch and calls Mila. We then overhear Mila say to Chanel that she wants to destroy Belle. We then meet Mila and we get her backstory. She was diagnosed with cancer at 22. We learn that the sarcomas found on Mila's arm have not spread to the rest of her body. However, there are too many of the sarcomas to cut individually out of her arm. She will have to have it amputated. And like any other person who has been dealt with the worst news, she starts reading up on alternative methods, alternative treatments, and she's hoping that she doesn't have to have her arm amputated. Mila refused the amputation and then had an experimental procedure done in which one dose of chemotherapy at 10 times the usual potency is administered directly into the tumor site. Back in Belle's meeting with her crisis management firm, we see Belle having a very hard time naming the doctor who diagnosed her, or even the hospital where the diagnosis was done. In the flashback to 2010, we can infer that Belle has always been a swindler. She talks people into doing things for her, she lies and she manipulates. We then see Belle talk to her mom, Natalie, about her baby shower, but Belle's mom seems distant and narcissistic. She's not even coming to her daughter's baby shower. We are then back to Mila and we see that the cancer treatment did work and she's in remission. We are then transported to Belle's baby shower. She had made cupcakes and sandwiches, but no one pitched. Everyone had an excuse. Later on, we find out that Mila's cancer is back and worse than ever. She will have to have her arm amputated. We are then back to Lucy in her doctor's appointment. We then see that Lucy is falling victim to Belle's scripts. She even asks her doctor about an institute in Mexico, and her doctor tells her straightforwardly that she almost has stage 4 breast cancer and they do not mess around with that. Lucy then has a breakdown outside and she tells her husband that he is not her carer and that this thing that she's going through isn't very sexy. Then at the end of the episode, we see the impetus of Belle's lies. No one came to her baby shower, and in an effort to garner sympathy, she started lying. She conjured up the idea of her illness in an effort to garner sympathy. Episode 2 starts with Chanel talking to the journalists. Belle doesn't have friends, she has hosts. It's such a powerful statement said by Chanel. The fact that she leeches herself onto people instead of being embraced says a lot about how she views humans, and that she only has use for them when she sees how they could benefit her. She uses something that she knows you have a weakness for, and she exploits it to her benefit. In the montage of Belle and Hank talking is done so well. She is serving him delicious food and peddling him with more lies. Here in the acting by Caitlin is very natural and believable. In the flashbacks in this episode, we see that Belle has had problems with her baby's father. Even though we haven't seen the baby when the timeline jumps to the present scenes and sequences, this episode, however, does show us that Belle was hustling this organic baby idea for a while, yet no one was latching onto it. This episode further establishes for us that Belle and Mila's friendship was only parasocial, and that Belle was closely following Mila's life, and the things she would sometimes say closely resembled the things that Mila had experienced. As Belle and Heck are drinking and she's flirting with him, we see Clive walk in carrying her son. We then find out that Clive saved Belle from her baby's father, Nathan, and that they are now raising her son together. Through another montage, we see that Clive and Belle moved in together. They started raising her son. Instagram took off, and Mila's cancer was in remission through the work that she did at the Hirsch Institute. I get the feeling that Belle's mom has Munchausen syndrome. In the flashback, when it was her mom's wedding, Natalie walks towards Belle, and Belle goes, "You're moving well," and her mom just ignores her. Belle says this because her mom has been reportedly living with multiple sclerosis for the entirety of Belle's life. The relationship between Belle and her mom is more than strained. These two women are living on two different planets. Her mom has no tact and she cannot read the room. She has no connection with Belle, and she ignores her purported health issues, and she just wants to embarrass Belle in front of Clive and her new husband. There is some sympathy to offer Belle here. Her mother is obviously a narcissist and never took care or note of her child. The scene where she tells Clive, "Do you want to know how old I was when I learned you had to wash the sheets? She had me sleeping on dirty sheets for years." It's a very heartbreaking statement. It shows that Natalie did not care about the well-being of her child. Now can see why Belle had to morph herself into whatever someone would like, even if that meant becoming a leech and exploiting people's vulnerabilities. She had no choice. She had to survive. She was fighting her own mom for attention, and her mom wanted all the attention for herself. We are then transported back to Mila, and I think Mila's mom had the right intentions. She wanted to save her daughter's life by any means necessary, but the doubt and skepticism kept cropping up. She had valid questions that were never answered. As we now know, her skepticism was more than valid, as both she and Mila fell victim to the pseudoscience that was peddled by the Hirsch Institute. When Mila was in remission from her cancer and Belle was in Brisbane for her mother's wedding that she skipped, Belle attended a speaking engagement hosted by Mila. And herein, Belle finds out rudely that parasocial relationships do not translate into real life bonds. She finds out that she's just a number on a website, just a comment in a flurry of comments, just another supporter. She thought that Mila would recognize her and embrace her, and she found out that that was not about to happen. Interestingly, at the end of the episode, we find out that Clive knows she's lying. It was something Natalie said that brought it all back to him. She said that when Belle's first boyfriend broke up with her, she faked a heart attack. Then she asked him if that sounds familiar, because that is exactly what Belle did to him. She faked a panic attack. We then see in a flashback that one day when he dropped Belle off at a clinic for chemotherapy, she left her laptop behind and he went in to go give it to him. And that's when he found out that the place where she purportedly walked into is not a place where they do chemotherapy. He had known for a very long time that she's lying, and he stayed. Clive loves her, and despite knowing everything, he decided to stay. This episode, we get to see how Belle started. She had a very clear vision and aesthetic. She knew exactly what she wanted to do, but she was also exploiting people and not paying them. She was pregnant with her and Clive's daughter when tragedy struck one day at a sonar appointment. This is how nature does it. Nature knows she's not perfect. Is probably the most disgusting statement to say to your partner after you just gave birth to a stillborn child. This is very dark, but in a way, I'm glad she didn't have that little girl, because she would have turned that girl into herself, just like her mother did to her. In this episode, we can clearly see that Belle has a strong case of mimetic desire. After her miscarriage, she saw on Instagram that Mila had just moved and bought a new house. When Clive asked her if she had any pain or discomfort and then confirmed that they did do everything they could to have a safe pregnancy, she starts going off on a tangent about their apartment, the Wi-Fi, the mold. She started hating their apartment the moment she saw that Mila had moved into a new house. She wanted what Mila had. We have to note that it's episode 3 and we still don't have the name of her son. But I digress. We then see in this episode that Belle's app, The Whole Pantry, goes live and it becomes the most downloaded app of 2013. She gets the life she wants, the house she wants, but she wants more. Her app is a hit, but her book containing recipes gets rejected by the same publishers that published Mila's book. It's very clear that Belle doesn't just want what Mila has, she wants to be Mila. Later on, we see Mila, her mom, and Chanel go to a wellness retreat. Her mom is complaining about an obstruction in her bowels and some constipation. Mila immediately gives her mom an enema. This is clearly bowel cancer, but there goes Mila wanting to clear the obstruction with coffee enemas after the enema that she just administered to her mom brought her mom to the hospital. She thinks she can cure her mom's bowel cancer, the same bowel cancer that just killed her grandma, with 5 coffee enemas a day. We are then back with Lucy, and the scene between Lucy and her husband is incredibly profound. Push and pull between wanting to save the life of your loved one by pushing them to please continue treatment, contrasted with the patient's frustration, exhaustion, and depletion, their unwillingness to continue, their resignation. As a person who supports someone with cancer, there is no way for you to understand what they are going through physically. So you would have no inclining into why they would want to stop being inoculated with toxins. At the end of the episode, we see Belle win an award over Mila, and we also find out that Lenny, the guy who took the photos for her app, is someone she knows from high school, someone who she kissed and then who embarrassed her. And in that moment, Belle faked a heart attack. We also find out at the end of this episode that Mila still has cancer. It is episode 4, and I think I find Chanel particularly insufferable, but she is the one who's going to blow the whistle on Belle, so I think I can probably tolerate her for now. Belle love bombed Chanel, and she also stole Chanel from Mila. Mila's dad is the only person with sense here. He knows that the juicing treatment that Mila has guided her mom into will kill his wife. And he also knows that it didn't work for Mila. Mila, on the other hand, isn't being honest about what she's actually experiencing and the fact that her sarcomas are back. I don't think the irony is lost on us that Belle started raising funds for a boy who has the exact same brain cancer that she purports to have. But she didn't do it out of the kindness or the goodness of her heart. She did it to change the narrative of the comments that she was receiving on Instagram, all while ignoring her actual child, whose name we still don't know. Later on in the episode, we see that Mila is getting desperate. She's been hustling this lifestyle and this lie about her remission for years, and now the tumors are back, and she has resorted to a black salve to magically cure her. The writing's on the wall for Mila, and so she starts to lash out. No one is attending her speaking engagements anymore. The attention is all being placed on Belle, and she is starting to unravel. Mila is killing her mother. The brainwashing and indoctrinating she underwent at this institute is blinding her to the fact that she is actually sick. And now she's taking her mother on the exact same quest and hoping that this treatment will magically work for her mom. She's actively murdering her mom, and all of this could be avoided if she just snaps out of it and trusts medicine. Next, we see Belle have an argument with Clive. She tells him that he is such a sheep and that he is easily susceptible to influence. Yet, that is exactly why she's with him, because he is malleable and easily influenced. Feeling cornered by Clive, she fakes a seizure that she saw Hunter have earlier on in the episode. Chanel is in the kitchen just watching, trying to decide if this is real or not. However, halfway across the globe, we see that Mila's mom faints in the airport. We are then transported back to Lucy, who has left her husband and went on a healing retreat to Peru. Lucy has this transcending experience after she took the medicine that they gave her. Right after this breakthrough, the lady who works at the retreat asks her if she wants to stay another week. She agrees, and then the lady comes back with a card machine. I think that highlights for us just how much of machine wellness culture is, that nothing is for free, that nothing is about the purported wellness and healing of the people who come there. It is nothing but a grift, just capitalism. It is episode 5, and at the top of the episode, we see that Belle's mom did an interview, and the apple does not fall far from the tree here. She is peddling lies just like her daughter. We then learn that Mila's mom died. Mila ostensibly killed her mom. Her dad knew that if his wife went on that plane, he would never see her again. And he was right. Clive knows it's all fake. He confirms this when he says to her, "Don't you ever fucking do that in front of him again." After he drove her to the hospital and she refused to go see a doctor. If Clive thought that the seizure was real, he wouldn't have said that. He knows it's a farce, but he can't leave the little boy with Belle because he knows that she won't care for him. She is so self-involved and self-obsessed that she wouldn't snap out of it long enough to care for him. Because if she could do that at his birthday party to dispel any suspicion, what else is she capable of? Mila is in quite the predicament. She cannot come clean about the tumors that are back on her arm. The treatment that she championed and wanted her mom to try didn't work for her. The same treatment that she forced her sickly mom to fly across the world for, and who in the process she lost to bowel cancer, did not work. Later on in the episode, Chanel stages an intervention that obviously doesn't go over well. Chanel stages the most extravagant display of crocodile tears and dismissals and denials and misdirections. She will never admit to the fact that she does not have cancer. And instead of coming clean, she digs her heels in deeper by announcing on her social media that she has now been diagnosed with cancer of the spleen, the blood, and the liver, and that she will now be handing over the reins to her team. Belle is a sick, twisted, and dangerous human being. I cannot believe that someone would lie about having cancer just for attention, to garner sympathy, and for notoriety. Later on, we see that despite the fact that Mila's mom died trying to follow this lifestyle, Mila is still juicing and still letting cancer destroy her body because she wants to so badly show that this thing that she has been peddling and proselytizing to thousands of people actually works. But I think most importantly, she wants to prove to herself that this thing that she believes in works, that it has to work, but it isn't. Mila and Belle are swindlers. That's the thing. Belle is obviously a swindler because she lied from the get-go and never had cancer. But Mila is a swindler because she was peddling this treatment that didn't work for her even. The scene where they are hurling insults at each other is so funny to me because both of these women know that they are lying, and they know the other is also lying. We then see Mila comes clean to her dad, which feels a little too late. And later on, we see that Belle is trying to remove herself and the cancer she lied about from the book that she wrote. We see through the flashbacks that Belle actually just wanted her mom's attention, that when she faked that panic attack, all she wanted was attention from her mom, but she never got that. It snowballed and she couldn't stop herself, and now we are here. I think with regards to Mila, what's incredibly heartbreaking is that all of this could have been avoided. Now the cancer in her arm has spread to her femur, her lungs, her ribs, and there's nothing that the doctors can do but make her comfortable. The fact that she did this to herself by believing in a hoax cancer treatment that was only a money grabbing scheme, I think, is the thing she regrets the most. The scene of her dad pining and begging the doctor to please do something is heartbreaking. It is the actions of a man who is desperate to save his daughter, a man who lost his wife already and is now losing his daughter in incredibly quick succession. And Mila did this to him. The two journalists were trying to find a way to expose Belle. They couldn't say that she's been lying about her cancer because then they would have to present medical records. So at the end of the episode, one of the journalists finds out that the money that Belle had fundraised for Harper, she never gave to him, and that the whole pantry isn't a registered fundraiser. It's the final episode, and we learn that Mila has died, and Belle shows up to the funeral. Belle has been transferring money into the accounts of foundations that she has been purportedly donating to right after she received an email with a list of questions from the journalists. After being called by Fiona, Hunter's mom, and told that they need the 60K that they fundraised for Hunter's surgery, Belle blocks her. Belle had used all of the money that was intended for the brain surgery of Hunter. The article about Belle's charity fraud comes out and the tide starts to turn. A seed of doubt was planted, and now everyone is speculating if her cancer was ever even real. Clive really loves Belle's son, whose name we still don't know, and he talks to Nathan to try to get him to go for full custody so that he can continue raising this little boy. But Nathan tells him that he doesn't think that would be a good idea for the boy, and he thinks that this would kill Belle. He further says that he doesn't think his girlfriend would be keen on wanting to be a full-time stepmom, and he says that his girlfriend's sister lives in Nevada and they want to spend more time that side. All of this dashes Clive's hopes. After the charity fraud expose, we see Belle move with Clive and her son to California. We then later see that Belle had been charged with charity fraud and was found guilty, and she had to pay a hefty fine. The show was good. I really enjoyed the timeline jump, the fourth wall breaking, the acting, and the storytelling. I thought they did a great job trying to fill in the blanks by creating new characters and imagining scenarios. We were able to get a full-rounded story, one that didn't feel haphazard or just thrown together. The creator of the show took her time taking what was reported in the book and what was in the public ether and amalgamated both into a coherent and cohesive story. I can definitely commend her on doing that. However, I do agree with Slate.com. The show is incredibly aware, and it is aware that true crime products are maligned for their role in the public's desensitization to the horrors and tragedies of the world in favor of a homogenized melodramatic narrative. The show mocks the genre's pitfalls while simultaneously falling victim to it. The disclaimer given by the characters at the top of every episode somehow devolves into one given without conviction. Episode 1, Belle says this is based off of a true story. In the middle of the series, Heck says this is a true-ish story. And by the end of the series, Natalie says this is not a true story at all. This changing of authenticity contextualizes what the character believes at that point of the story and has zero bearing on whether the story that we are being told is based off, or loosely based off any fact at all. Belle believes all her lies, so she says it's true. Heck has some speculation that it might not be true, but he's also aware that she embellishes some details, while Natalie has always known that she's lying. This character-based assessment of the actual truth leaves the audience wondering if what we are being told at that point of the story is at all true, if what we are viewing is a depiction of actual events. Slate.com mentions that the disclaimer given by Heck, in which he asks the audience if they care or if they should care, where he says that us as viewers' compulsion to narrativize and dramatize heroes' journeys, goodies, baddies, makes us incapable of objective thought. Slate mentions that this speech chastises the viewers for being consumers of true crime narratives, when the series is ostensibly guilty of doing the exact same. Slate.com posits that the show wants to have a smarter take on the true crime scammer story, but that it falls short of doing this, as the show exists because someone decided to narrativize a particular baddie. Apple Cider Vinegar cannot make the audience feel bad because they are in fact feeding the audience the thing they like to consume. The show is just as culpable as the viewer. The show capitalizes on what they call an audience's incapability of forming an objective thought, while admonishing you for indulging in the thing that they created for that specific purpose. In summation, this is a great show. Great acting, great storytelling, great directing, great editing. I think if they had taken care not to mock their audience or to mock the genre that the story forms part of, it would have made the show even better. So therefore, Apple Cider Vinegar gets a 3.5 out of 5 from me. Well, that's it for this video. Please make sure to like, comment your thoughts on Apple Cider Vinegar. Tell me what you took away from this limited series, and please make sure to share this video with your friends. In addition to all of that, please don't forget to follow me on Instagram at InternetCharlton. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next review. Bye.